Okay, so we are going to try this landscape assignment one more time. I'm going to go through it straight through. Hopefully you will catch everything. Please don't be afraid to put this video on pause if there's something you miss. Fast forward, rewind, whatever it takes, but just try to catch everything. All right, so the first thing, of course, we need a photo. I've saved a photo. It's in my OneDrive, and you'll see it in 1 minute. I'm going to go to Photoshop and get rid of this screen. I'm going to give myself a full screen. I'm creating new. All right, I'm going to go to print. Print is currently set at letter size. I would like to increase the size of that a little bit, so I'm going to make it a 9. Actually, let me change that, 11 by 14. This will get changed once I bring my photos in. It's really just going to depend on the actual size of your photo. I'm going to name this Mrs. C. Landscape 8, something like that. You call it whatever you want. Actually, I'm not even sure if I'm using a landscape. I'm not. I think the picture that I found is actually giraffes, so I'm going to call it Giraffes 8. All right, 300 RGB. I'm ready to get going. All right, here's my screen. Now, for some reason, oh, I know why. My screen does not have an Essentials workspace, and the reason I can see that is because at the bottom I have a timeline. Timelines are used when we make animations. I'm working with animations with another class, so that's why my workspace is not correct. So, as always, the best thing to do is go to Window, go to Workspace. I don't need motion. What I need is Essentials. My timeline is gone. My interface looks the way it's supposed to look. All right, let's bring in our photo. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Place Embedded. I'm going to go to my OneDrive file, which is right here. I'm going to go to my PAMC folder. This is where I saved it. I'm going to go to Photoshop. Here's my 3 folders, Photos, Practice, and Projects. It is in my Photos folder, and there it is. It's giraffes. I'm going to place this image of my giraffes. I have a mom and a baby. All right, the image is going to get reduced. So while I still have the bounding box around it, I'm simply going to left click. Now, right now, it's stretching. I don't want to skew it, so I'm going to hit Command Z, take it back to the way it should be. I'm going to hold my Shift key, and now I'm going to resize it. This way, my photo does not get stretched in any manner. I'm going to slide the photo up to the top left corner, and I'm going to hit my check mark. I still have this layer selected, so to copy it, I'm going to hit Command C, which is for copy, and then I'm going to hit Command V, which is for paste. I will go up to my Move tool and click on it. That way I can move this photo where I need it to be. Now, right now you can't see it on this side. That means I need to now make my document bigger. I will go to my crop tool, which should be here. If you have any trouble finding your crop tool, you may have to go to the 3 little dots here. This will give you additional tools. And let me see, there we go. It'll give you additional tools. So if for some reason you're not seeing the tool that you're looking for, you can look for it there. But anyway, there's my crop tool. I need to stretch my document window out so that now both images fit in terms of width. This image, if you zoom in a little bit, I'm going to hit Command plus. If you zoom in a little bit, there's a tiny bit of a gap there. So if I click on this image, I've just clicked on it, I'm going to go to my keyboard, I'm going to hit the left arrow, and now I've closed that gap. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to flip this photo because we want a symmetrical design. So I click, I go to Edit, I scroll down to Transform. Now be careful if you try to get to, we're trying to get to flip horizontal. If I try to get to it, well, actually that just worked. Typically, if you try to get to it and you're just kind of trying to cut through, it won't go. You have to sort of go across and down, and then you can get to your flip horizontal. And now you can see that I was able to flip that photo, and now I've made this very interesting image with the two giraffes' heads almost making like a V. Next thing I need to do, let me zoom out a little bit, is I need to go to my Move tool again. This time I'm going to select both of these images. So I left click and I really just create a little box here. We call these marching ants. The marching ants have captured both pictures. If I hit Command C and then Command V, I will duplicate both images. So now I move up. I can use the arrow on my keyboard to move the image up, close the gap. I'll hit Command V again, slide this one down. I've got 3. Now I don't have much space at the bottom. I'm going to add the 4th one anyway, and then I will enlarge my space by going to the crop tool and simply pulling down until it's exactly the size I need it to be. All right, that was easy, right? Okay, if I look over here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers. Something that we will do as we continue to work with Photoshop is we will start to name our layers. So we might as well start now. So I'm going to call this giraffe top left. I'm going to call this giraffe top, whoops, my spelling is pretty bad, top right. We're going to call this giraffe. Now I have to figure out what to call that. I'm just going to number them. Just going to call this giraffe 1. This is going to be giraffe 1 right. This is going to be giraffe 2 left. Giraffe 2 right. Giraffe 3 left. Giraffe 3 right. Giraffe 4 left. And last but not least, giraffe 4 right. Okay, I didn't have to do that, but like I said, eventually you will be naming your layers. It's going to be very helpful to you. So This will help you find what you're looking for a lot easier. All right, I want to save this. Okay, I'm going to save it just as it is. I'm going to save it onto my computer. I'm going to save it in the projects folder. So when you go to Photoshop in OneDrive, click on projects, save there. All right. Now right now it's saved as a PSD, which means I can make any changes I need to this. I need to also save it as a JPEG. So I will go to File, I will go to Export, I will go to Save for Web, click. Okay, it's a little big. If you want to see what it looks like, zoom in. It's set for JPEG. Make sure it's not a GIF. If you see this color grid here, then you know that you're not saving it as a JPEG. So make sure you see JPEG. Hit save. Now be very careful where it goes. It likes to send things to downloads. We want it in OneDrive. We want it in PAMC. And mine are not in alphabetical order. Now they are. There's PAMC. There's Photoshop. And this is a project. It's just that this is the JPEG format of it. And I'm going to hit save. All right. Now I'm ready to start using my new layer adjustments. So here's what I'm going to do. Since I'm saving this one, I want to create a new one. This one will be save as. This will also go to my computer. Thankfully, it's already taking me to projects, and I will change the name on this to with, and I don't know why I have all caps here, so I will use lowercase, with adjustments. Okay, so now I'm ready to get to work. Giraffes 8 with adjustments. We're going to start with our first image, which, if you look in the layers, says giraffe 1 left. So there it is. I'm not going to do what I did before. I'm not going to come here and choose brightness contrast and make a change. Well, it's working for this one, but typically if I do this, it will change everything. For instance, if I was here and I did that, you would see that everything lightens up, and so we don't want to do that. We want to do one image at a time. So I just hit Command Z because Command Z undoes everything. The other thing you can do is if you accidentally put something in here that you don't want, you can just click on it and hit delete, or you can click on it and drag it to your trash can. All right. So I'm going to go to my first image. I'm going to go to Layer. I'm going to go to New Layer Adjustment, and we'll start with Brightness Contrast, but we are going to designate that we want this to be, we want it to be part of a clipping mask, which means that this is only going to occur on the one picture. So I checked that, so now I can now brighten it if I want to brighten it. I can lower the contrast, I can raise the contrast, I can do whatever I want. Since it's already in a clipping mask, I can add more adjustments if I choose to. Sometimes adding photo filters is a fun thing to do. You can try different colors. It'll change the whole look. Keep in mind that when you are adding photo filters, you can really change it by increasing the density. Okay, sometimes you just need a little balance to your color, and so I might want a filter for no other reason than to just balance my color out a little bit. All right, so I'll leave that one like that. Now I'm going to click on my second image. Again, I'm going to go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer. This time we'll try Levels. Again, always click Use Previous Layer to create clipping mask. Always click that. All right, this particular adjustment, allows you to, first of all, rein in shadows. So for instance, if you look at the histogram here, you see that things taper off toward the shadows and they taper off toward the highlights. So if I want to bring things in a little bit, make them a little crisper, I can certainly bring in both my highlights and my shadows. As far as the midtones go, I can change the midtones by playing with the middle lever there, okay? In the middle is probably going to be a good place for it to be, but you may have a reason to want it not to be there. Maybe you want to show more of the darker colors, so I can lean it in this direction. You can also use these eyedroppers. I'm not going to use them. It will change the colors completely. If I, for instance, click here, you can see it will change everything. I'm going to hit Command Z. If I click here, it'll change. I'm going to leave it just like that. All right, time to move to my third image. Click on my third image, go to Layer, go to New Adjustment Layer. This time we're going to go to Curves. Again, use Previous Layer. All right, Curves is very unique. You can change it once, or you can change it multiple times. You can play with this curve in lots of different ways. You can see I'm completely changing the look of this image with some of the things I'm doing here. Now, I'm not quite sure if I like it all, but let's just say I decide I do want to keep that. But I want to accentuate things a little more, so maybe I will increase the contrast so that those colors become a little bolder. Maybe I want to go to Vibrance, make the colors a little more vibrant. Now it has a really interesting look to it. Increase the saturation will basically deepen the colors. I'm going to leave it like that. If I zoom in, you can always zoom in and see what it is that you've actually done to your images. So now I'm going to click on my fourth image. Again, I'll go to Layer, I'll go to New Adjustment Layer. I'm going to skip exposure for now. I'll go back to it. Well, yeah, we'll do it real quick. So I'll go to exposure. Okay, we will increase the exposure a little bit. That's like almost like you've got a camera. Think of it this way. You're taking a photograph. When you increase the exposure, you're allowing more light into the camera lens. If you want less light, if you look at this, it almost looks like a bad photo, a photo where there wasn't enough lighting. So this was actually a good photo. So honestly, me changing the exposure would not have been necessary. But I could at least deepen some things here, and I can play with some of these. That's definitely not the direction I would want to go with this. So maybe I'm going to go about here. All right, so I've lightened it up a little bit. Now I've already masked it, so I can use another adjustment. I'm curious as to what's going to happen if I leave it set on master and just change the colors altogether. Okay, I'm going to get a really interesting look, you know. Oops. Now let me go back. Okay, so it did not mask this one, so let me hit Command Z. I'm going to leave the exposure. I'm going to go back to this image though, because it did not, you can see it started changing some of the other images. So for whatever reason, it didn't pick up the mask there. So I'm going to do this one again, and now it will only change the colors of this one image. And, you know, of course, play with the colors and get something that you like. So maybe, you can't decide Can't decide what I like. There's something about, yeah, we'll go with the violets and the pinks. Okay, so I'm going to have a violet pink giraffe there. All right, my next one, again, layer, new adjustment layer. We'll try color balance this time. Always click. All right. Now this one is going to be set up again with shadows, midtones, and highlights. So if you want to start with your dark tones, click shadows. This will change only the dark areas of your image. So the dark areas will change color depending on where you go with the colors. Okay, so I'm adding some magenta and I added some cyan. And so I'm getting some rich blues in there. Maybe my highlights, I want to do something with the highlights. Maybe I want my highlights to have some yellow tones in there. Make them seem nice and bright. And I'll leave that one like that. I'll move on to my next photo. All I do is click on it. You can see that it's highlighted over in the layer section. I'm now going to go to layer, new adjustment layer. And we're not going to do black and white. We've already done photo filter. Channel mixer is kind of similar to some of the others where you can change colors, but what it's doing is it's only working with RGB, and so it's taking the reds, and depending on what you do with the colors, it'll change based on RGB. And so I'm just kind of playing around with this here. If I take the greens now, it's taking the greens that were in the original photo. So it's not necessarily going to change what I've done. It's going to change what's in the original photo, because as we know, raster photos, digital photos use RGB. So I've played with the red, I've played with the green. The only color I haven't played with is the blue. So you can see what happens when I try to change the blues. And there's a lot of blues in this picture, which is why so much is changing when I adjust these. So I think I'm going to take this one back to 0 because I want it to be, yeah. So I'll go in here somewhere. I'm not concerned about what your adjustments really look like. You certainly can play with them and get them to be exactly what you want. I wanted a little bit of blue and green in this one, but in any case, I mean, I can go back to my hue saturation at this point. Whoops, I'm in the wrong. Oops, and I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go back, I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go back to the original. I'm going to go to layer, new adjustment layer, and I will go to hue saturation again. And this time, does some interesting things. Okay, anyway, just play with it till you get something that you like. I am down to my 7th image now. Layer, new adjustment layer. Where do we want to go? Invert. Invert is always a quick and easy one to do. Invert is basically going to take those colors and just flop them. This one, our last one, I definitely want to do the gradient map. So I'm going to go to new adjustment layer. I'm going to go down to my gradient map. I just always like using the gradient map. It starts out with a color. You know, sometimes it picks up a color that maybe was in your last image. I'm going to have a lot of colors in this, so I'm going to keep tapping right below the color bar there. I'll start with my first box. When I double click on it, it gives me a place to add some color. I'll hit OK. Maybe I'll keep that pink there and just see what I come up with when I start putting in other colors. I'll move this out of the way so I can see better. Maybe I'll come up here a little bit, lighten that. This one, I want this to be pretty colorful. Let's see what happens if I add some greens to this. Interesting. Again, we have a lot of the pinks because when I first started this, I was gonna toss in some yellow. We have pink here. Maybe I'll try a deep blue in this one. I can add more colors. I mean, I can break this into as many colors as I want. You can see every time I tap, it adds in the last color that I put in there. You know, so it really creates a very abstract looking design when you start playing with your gradient map. So you took just a regular photo and really kind of created almost what looks like some kind of a work of art. If I want to pull something out of this, I just drag it out and then it's no longer there. Move things over, shift things. If I decide this goes here and this is going to go here. I do have this white here. Maybe I'll bring some more white. Anyway, play with it until you get something that you think is interesting. And I'll stop there. All right, so now when I back up, I have 8 different images. I've done 8 completely different things with each of these images. That was the goal of this assignment, was to teach you how to use the layer adjustments for each part of this final piece. And we'll be doing this a lot more as we get, as we get into other projects. So, so now that I'm done, I can just hit save because I've already named it with adjustments, so I can just hit save. So now my PSD is saved. The PSD, as you know, is your Photoshop document, which means I can make changes to this anytime. These layers are never going to go away. These layers are always going to be there. To submit it to Google Classroom, though, I need to save it as a JPEG. So here I will go to Export, Save for Web, click. Okay, right now it's pretty big. I'm going to make it smaller so I can see the whole thing. It's saved as a JPEG. I'm going to hit save. It's going to go into my projects folder and it will say with adjustments, but it will say JPEG. Okay, so that's what it looks like. The JPEG is what I will turn in. And if you are just dying to do one more thing with this, you already know how to use filters. So feel free to take this same PSD, change it to with filter, okay? Go to OK. And then, of course, you probably recall that when you want to add a filter, you can't have all those layers. So what you'll do is you'll go to Layer, you'll go to Flatten Image, and now this is all one image, which means I can't do anything to these now. These are set. And then I would go to Filter, I would go to my filter gallery, I would definitely reduce this in size so that it can be seen on my screen. And then I just start having fun, testing out things. If you don't like something, you don't even have to wait. You can usually just click and it'll immediate. This is kind of interesting. This is called a cutout. Kind of gives it sort of a cut paper look. And depending on how many levels you have, kind of determines the detail. Kind of different. Fresco is kind of interesting because it adds a little bit of black to your design. There's a lot of options. Poster. Maybe you like the look of a poster. This has thick edges, so I might reduce that. So far, I can't say I love any of these. Let's see what watercolor would look like. Yeah, not loving that one either. I think I will go back to cutout. I'm not sure why. Just has a very simplistic look to it. It changes it completely. It makes it feel more like it's a graphic design. You would never know that this started out with actual photographs. I'm gonna, yeah, it really does look like cut paper now. Different. All right, so I might just say go with something like that. I know it looks nothing like my original. Now it's just a work of art. If someone saw this, they'd have no clue that I started out with an actual photograph, but it does have an interesting look. So I'll save this one. It already says with filter. I'll save it. I'll save it as a JPEG. There it is as a JPEG, and I hit save. And so now I have 6 variations of this one assignment. And you know, I kind of want you guys to feel comfortable moving around this program and doing creative things. So if I go to Photoshop, if I go to my projects, again, I'm more interested in the JPEGs. I have the original, which had nothing done to it. Then I had the click that again. Then I had my adjustments right there. And last but not least, there's my filter. So I'm going to make these a little smaller. And you can kind of just see how we made all these variations, and it's kind of a cool thing to do. Okay, so anyway, go ahead, at least give me this. I don't care if you do this or not. If you do, if you think it's a fun thing to try, go for it. All it's going to do is give you repetition at using this program and all the things that it does. Okay? All right, good luck to you.